Boomer.
Hey, good morning, man. Hey, look at the bright sunshine this morning, man. I love it.
They're back.
They're in a good mood.
They are back, and we are at the house that Mac built this morning at Gillette Stadium, right here where it all happened yesterday, Boomer.
You know, it was interesting. You know, his performance yesterday was the third highest completion percentage in a game in Patriots history. If you can believe it or not, 25 at 30, 270, what was it, 272 and two touchdowns? And he did not turn the ball over, thankfully. And by the way, I did see one stat late last night, and it's unbelievable when I think about it. So the Patriots under Bill Belichick are an unbelievable 128-0 at home when they have a 10 or more point lead going into the fourth quarter.
Well, besides Mac, what did you see in that offense yesterday that maybe you haven't seen in the first 6 weeks?
The first thing you got to start with is turnovers. I mean, turnovers have been the bugaboo and have been what have killed Mac Jones specifically. I mean, turnovers that turn into touchdowns and points, especially when the defense does the scoring, never mind putting their opposing offense in great field position. So that's the first thing. You know, the second thing, I thought he got pretty good pass protection yesterday. I didn't see him under too much duress. And then the third thing is that his wide receivers and tight ends were actually holding on to the football. So, you know, it was almost a perfect game from his standpoint. And that's something that has not really been the case this year. I didn't see a different player. I didn't see somebody who had better arm strength. I didn't see anybody that was looked that much different to me in the previous games, other than the fact that those three things that I just talked about, you know, all happened for him or didn't happen for him in the case of the stupid turnovers.
Well, it looks like noted Mac Jones hater Jermaine Wiggins has a question, Boomer.
Yeah, Boomer, I listen, I've always known that when you have a Bill Belichick coached football team, you're going to have an opportunity to win football games. Is this something that, should we believe this, or is this something that's fool's gold?
Well, I don't know about fool's gold, but we're going to know a little bit more about them over the next 6 games, because I'm assuming that they could probably hang with the next 6 teams that are on their schedule, and that includes the Miami Dolphins next week. But, you know, then come the Commanders, the Colts, the Giants. I mean, this is a stretch of their schedule here now where they should be able to, I'm hoping win at 5 out of the next 6. That would be something that I think would be a lofty goal for sure, but something that is also realistic. I mean, watching the Washington Commanders yesterday against the Giants, they were just putrid. They were awful. They were awful offensively, and Sam Howell is really not ready for the big time just yet. You know, Indianapolis, I felt like got really screwed out of their game yesterday. They should have won that game. They had the game won, and then all of a sudden one of those stupid phantom penalties gets thrown on them, and then another one gets thrown on them while they're in the end zone when the ball was completely uncatchable. You know, the Giants still stink. I just think that this is a stretch now where they can maybe get themselves back in the mix here.
When you look at the AFC East, you look at the Dolphins, you look at the Bills, are you just at a point of the season where they're a little bit tired, or are you starting to see who these teams really are? Is the AFC East maybe more manageable for the Patriots than we thought in the beginning?
Well, you still got the Jets to deal with, even though they already beat the Jets. But, you know, this was a huge win for New England just simply because it was, you know, within the division. I kind of think Miami, 4 out of their last 5 games are at home. So they're not going to look as bad as they did last night in the second half. They're not going to have to deal with the cold weather. A lot of the teams that they're playing that are going to be within their reach in the terms of the playoffs, they'll be able to take care of at home. And they run a track meet at home. There's no question about that. Buffalo has not been right since they got back from London. They lost to Jacksonville in London. They basically did not play well against the Giants, and obviously they didn't play well again yesterday. You know, there's something off about them. I'm not really sure what it is. I got to go back and look at the tape and just really look at exactly what Josh Allen is doing and what their defense is doing. This team, at one point, I would say about 3 weeks ago, was one of the better teams in the NFL, and now all of a sudden they've fallen flat. So they're going to have to get their act together. But that's why I'm saying over the next 4 or 5 weeks, the Patriots have a chance to get themselves back in the mix here and get back in the middle of things in the AFC. I don't think they're going to win it. I think they've lost too many games already, but I'm sure Coach Belichick is going to be telling his players exactly what I'm telling you, that this season is far from over, and we have a chance here now over the next 4 or 5 weeks to get back into it.
Boomer, I was shocked when Ian Rappaport reported that Bill Belichick agreed to a long-term contract extension before this season. What was your initial reaction, and I guess were you as surprised as I was?
I was a little bit surprised, but, supposedly it's a really expensive one, too. I don't think the way that it was put out there. So
Lucrative. It was
lucrative. There you go. And it should be lucrative.
Yes.
Right, long-term lucrative. But you get those two L's together, that actually works out pretty well for the person on the other side of that contract.
It's like your deal here with Odyssey.
Yeah, long-term and lucrative, yes. I was a little surprised. It was leaked. I'm sure that you could ask Bill Belichick why his side leaked that. But I think it's probably just to shut everybody up about he's not going anywhere unless Bob Kraft wants a lucrative contract. And lucrative, I've got to believe that he is the highest paid coach in the league. I mean, it's either him or Andy Reid, and both of them are doing exceptionally well, but they never, ever really talk about their contracts. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
Well, the only other time Bill Belichick's contract was leaked was in the immediate aftermath of Spygate. So he picks good times to get that information out there.
Well, that's politics, if you ask me. So he ain't going anywhere, boys. You're going to have to deal with him. And I'm sure you'll have a much happier Bill Belichick this week.
There were some who had the Lions going to the Super Bowl. Was that premature after that drubbing yesterday?
It's the NFL, man. Things happen. I'm sure that Dan Campbell will use it, as they say, as a learning tool. Hey, guys, we got to get our proverbial acts together. But I think it says more about Baltimore and about how difficult they're going to be. Lamar Jackson is playing like he did during his MVP season. Now, they always talk about new offensive coordinator. We're going to really work on the passing game. He had a good passing game yesterday, but he did what he normally does. And I don't know why everybody doesn't just accentuate what he does. And that is he makes plays. He gets out of tough spots in the pocket. He's fast. He just does the normal thing that he always does, and that is when a play breaks down, that's when he steps up. So as long as he stays healthy, they're going to be a pain in the ass to play. They always are anyway. But I think it's more indicative of how good Baltimore is as opposed to a one-off for the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are going to win the NFC North in my eyes.
Boomer, sitting here as a Pats fan, you say after the Miami game, you start to look at their stretch of winnable games. Is that really a good thing for us Pats fans here? Because when you look at it, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. Don't you want to be in the top 5 when it comes to picks? Because if you have a good foundation, don't you want to add potential pieces to go with this really good foundation rather than being picked 16th or 17th?
I'd hate to have you as a head coach coming in there. Guys, listen, we don't want to win. We want to lose. I mean,
I'm a fan. I'm not a coach, right?
No, you are a coach.
No, he's not. No.
What happened? Did you get fired already?
No, not yet. He saved himself. He got to win this week.
Yeah, I got to win. But guess what? We don't have draft picks in high school football. But as a fan, do I want to see my team picking somewhere around 17 because they won 4 or 5 games during the season against teams that they know they could beat? Or do I want to see them picking the top 5?
Well, the interesting thing is that that's always been the problem for the Patriots ever since Bill Belichick got there. They've always been competitive. They've always been in the middle of the pack or at the bottom when it comes to the draft. And that's just a product of being a good coach, running a solid foundation, and beating teams like Buffalo that you probably, with the other team's quarterback being an all-world quarterback and, having a really good defensive line, all of a sudden your team wins. Well, there's a lot to be said about coaching in this league, and it's why he's won his 300th game. He's been around long enough to know that losing is not an option, even though they do lose. It's not an option in his brain, and it's certainly not an option for the players who are out there playing. I know this personally because I played on like 3 or 4 really crappy teams, and I was stupid enough to think every time I went out there on Sunday or Monday, whenever it was, that we were going to be good enough to win. And then when the game was over, I'd slap myself in the face and say, "You dope! You guys stunk." But I don't see that mindset taking hold there in New England. I never see that mindset taking hold anywhere for that matter. And I would say, like even Arizona, who you would think is going to have the number 1 overall pick, or Carolina for that matter, when those teams are out there playing, they're not thinking about the 2024 draft. They're thinking about winning the game that they're in at the moment.
It's a real problem for the Mac haters like Wiggy and Shime and the callers this morning because they've been saying for weeks, there's no way you're going to beat the Bills. You're never going to beat the Bills. And they turn around and beat the Bills. Boomer.
Blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
All right, the question of the week for Boomer is brought to you by McFarland Energy, the trusted source in Greater Boston, the North Shore, and all of Cape Cod for home heating oil delivery and HVAC work. How painful was it for you yesterday to see the photo of Taylor Swift with your arch nemesis Bernie Kosar before that Chiefs game?
Oh, that's a very good question. I was wondering, how the hell did that happen? I mean, what was Bernie doing out there?
Did Bernie know? Did he know who she was? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, he did. Of course he did. But I'm just still trying to figure out how in the world Bernie pulled that off. And do you think that he told her, "Hey, I'm Bernie Kosar. He used to be, quarterback of the Browns," as they're watching the Browns and Colts football game of all things to be watching? First of all, I would have dropped it. I would have said, "Hey, look, man. I was an MVP. I was the man of the year. I was, I drop every. I'm in her bingo Ring of Honor. I would have done everything I possibly could to impress her." So I'm assuming that he did the same thing.
I'm sure he did. All right, Boomer, you're the best. We'll talk to you again next week. Thank you.
Okay, let's brighten up there a little bit, all right, guys? See you guys.